All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Dominic Bickus, and today is Paramount Podcast, episode 7, with our guest, Penny Vettel Deersing. Penny, she's a digital marketing innovator. She's a thought leader throughout the space. Penny has been a great, dear friend and a resource of mine here throughout the past 5, 6 years. She's also an author now of two separate books, Text That Sell and Chatbots That Sell. So, Penny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Yes, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know working in a car dealership for all these years has has its up and downs.
It is chaos. You can probably imagine I had to grab my laptop and run into the lot tech closet and lock the door just to get away to be able to do this. So I'm sure everyone out there in car dealerships can relate.
I swear, every time we talk, you're doing tech support, you're plugging in phones, doing the Wi-Fi, helping
Yes.
change passwords, and you're wearing all the hats there.
Yes, I've been told before I should just pick up a broom and start sweeping.
I love it. Well, I'm looking forward to our discussion today. I know every time you and I speak, a 20-minute phone call turns into hours talking about digital marketing and texting and what the new initiatives are there in the industry. So I'm definitely looking forward to our chat here today to jump into things a bit more.
That's awesome.
Perfect. Well, let's kick things off, Penny, from the start. I know your story a bit, but how did Penny Vettel get into the automotive industry in the first place? Take us back a bit.
I was recruited 1998 from a company called Reynolds and Reynolds, and they had partnered with Nissan North America, and they were going to begin implementing web-based CRMs into their car dealerships, and they needed a project manager, and I have a Six Sigma background, green belt, black belt, and I knew nothing about the car business, but they wanted that structure, someone to come in, and I had to handle the Infinity stores, the rollout. And this was back when we were training salespeople on web-based lead management when salespeople didn't have computers. It was a interesting time. That was when leads still came over by auto buy teller with a fax machine.
Uh-huh.
And salespeople would walk by and grab the sheet of paper off the fax machine. And a lot of showroom floors only had one computer, and all the salespeople shared it. So it was an interesting time. And it was also a good time for me because I kind of came into business at the very beginning of what I consider the digital age of the automotive retail car dealership. And then I traveled for years, and it just got to be a lot. I use that as an excuse. Really, the real reason is I loved being in car dealerships. That was the highlight of my day. When I had to go back to my office in Dayton, that was not fun. I wanted to be in the car dealerships. I just had a passion for it. And I thought, well, then why don't you go work for a car dealership? I wanted to get that vendor badge off. I wanted to actually be an employee in a car dealership. And there was a good opportunity here in Cincinnati. We have a great market, a lot of car dealerships, a lot of opportunity, a lot of forward growth mindsets in the industry here. And I ended up taking a BDC manager position with a Chevy store in Northern Kentucky, and awesome experience. And it just kind of grew from there. I wanted to have a multi-franchise opportunity, so I went to work for a Toyota store that had a Chrysler Dodge Jeep store, and then I wanted to get a little closer to home, so I joined the Sweeney organization, and that's where I've been now for 14 years.
Got it. Got it. Well, that's awesome. And going from BDC manager to now you're the marketing director, and again, I know titles don't often mean much. I know you're certainly a thought leader in helping steer the direction of the brand and image for your dealership that you work with. What is it that got you so excited about just seeing the change and helping transform what the automotive retail customer journey looks like? What is it that really sparked your interest to continue learning and growing within these roles?
The evolution of the BDC manager. And for all of the BDC managers out there and for all the BDC representatives out there, because early day BDC managers, we did the job too. We were pounding phones, we were making the phone calls, we were dialing for dollars. And every single person in that job knows how things started to automatically evolve for you when you have a website, and then the owner wants all the employees on the website. And then now you've got your inventory on the website. Now you got to price your inventory on the website. We want photos on the website. Well, wouldn't it be cool if we had videos on the website? It just kept evolving.
Yeah.
And I already came from a technical background, so I was thrilled. I know there's a lot of BDC managers out there that really went through a lot of growth in that period, but I looked forward to it. I wanted more.
Uh-huh.
We started to see the gaps closing on marketing and digital marketing, and then inventory and digital inventory. And then you started seeing the merging of the used car department with the internet department. And you just keep growing with it. And to the point where, well, first you have to be willing to grow with it. And you have to be in an organization that recognizes that growth. I know some stores were more progressive than others, and I'm blessed to be a part of one of them. But to the point now where if you are in any type of business development role in a dealership, you are the digital person.
Yeah.
It comes with the job now. And
Yeah.
you're also a marketing person, because the old things that used to sit in the marketing department, like newspaper, billboard, radio, TV,
Uh-huh.
it became shrunk to all of this digital. And so you, as a business development person, adopt that, because it slowly, you came into work one morning and it was in your office for you to cultivate.
Yeah.
Just recently, we've seen the merging of the used car department. Now you've got used car managers that are merchandising vehicles. So they're going into classes called how to SEO your used car inventory, and they're learning how to use certain keywords. And so now I work hand in hand with used car managers from 10 years ago, where they would just come and, why is this price wrong? Update my price. Why did my pictures look so bad? That was the beginning and the end of the used car manager's part in the digital marketing of the car dealership. Now they're writing SEO filled content. Merchandising is a huge word. Store is a huge word, and we have these really awesome young new or used car managers that are just killing it. And so now we're one department, and we're all learning how to work together. And I think it's going to evolve even further.
Yeah.
I think that as we grow, I don't feel so much separation in my role than the BDC manager here, than the BDC reps here. We all do a little bit of each other's jobs. And so talk about evolution, your BDC rep who used to work off of paper manifests, now they log into 7 things a day.
Right.
Just to be able to do their job, they have to be very web savvy to be able to be successful in their job. But I think it's good for us as an industry, because we are the chosen field for a lot of young people who are choosing a trade job. And I think it's an exciting environment to be in now, because you get so much out of it when you come to work in a car dealership. So I know that what we've been able to grow and put together here has definitely made us a desirable place for young people to come and work and learn and grow. And it really does make for kind of an exciting showroom floor that we're putting. We have 3 new, they're not new now, they've been here about a year, but people who graduated high school and chose us as a trade career. And because of everything that we're doing and everything that I've done, we bring them right in and train them. They're trained on all the software, they're trained on all the programs that we use. They understand the process A to Z, and they're very fluent in everything that we're doing in the digital department, and they contribute to it. So it's, I think the evolution has been exciting. We're still evolving, and we're still keep growing, hence my books.
It's the complexity of it, and even, seeing the growth over the last 3, 4, 5 years, no longer as a salesperson, as a manager. Can you just flip paper and consider that a job well done? It seems like the technical acumen is required for every single position. If you just started today as a salesperson, a BDC representative, a manager, a finance manager, it seems like technology is not something that you can shy away from anymore. You have to be able to utilize that and encompass it. I'm curious, Penny, coming from a background of not starting in the automotive industry, but coming from a background of being a vendor, what sort of perspective and advantage do you feel like that brought to you, as opposed to maybe starting your career straight at a car dealership?
I was the person who was responsible for delivering successful programs to car dealerships. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for the people that I was working with that, let's face it, when you're a vendor, you walk in, you install, you leave.
Yeah.
And the dealership has to make it work and see a profit out of it. And the advantage I think I had when I came into the dealership is that I took everything that I was doing in the field, but now I get to be here 5 days a week, 40, 50, 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving. So I was able to take all of that and then, okay, now I've got the stick to itiveness. Just, where do we go from here? And I had really a great respect for that. I am very thorough as a result of that. When we do bring on new programs and we do look at new technologies, I make sure that we're extremely thorough and I'm invested, because I learned that as a vendor, if the people that you're installing your products with aren't completely invested in the success of the product, you're going to be the bad guy because your product's not going to work. But it's really not going to be the quality of your product. It's going to be the dedication of the people that you gave it to. And so I think that my complete 100% fair shake of every program that we install here came from being a vendor and admitting that if things don't always go right, that it's a people and a process problem. Very rarely is it a technology problem, but the people in the process is the stuff we don't like to talk about because that's the real challenge in this industry. And I think I brought that with me from, I had 150 Infinity stores and, I had some that were very successful and I had some that were mediocre and I had some that were just, in the dark. And it all came down to the people in the process.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm in their store for an hour, once a month. So I have dedicated, I would say more time to people in process than I do to technology. And I 100% get that from my experience with Reynolds.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I think it's, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. It's all technologies. Maybe they look great in a 30-minute demo on the screen, and then the actual implementation and the overseeing it to ensure that it's driving a certain result, that's a challenge of its own. So I think
I'm sure you've seen it,
Yeah, absolutely.
With a product and you install it in a dealership and you can feel it right off the bat if you're getting what you need out of the staff. And when you're not getting what you need, you probably can foresee the future. You probably just go back to your desk and go, oh, this is going to be rough.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say this to everyone I speak to. The biggest difference for our company that separates having a successful relationship with a dealership versus just an average one really comes down to that camaraderie, communication amongst our two teams where they're viewing us like a member of their team. I'm one phone call away as opposed to that vendor that you don't speak to for 30 days. And then they send you a pretty report of here's everything we did for you, Penny.
Right. And I'm the person that sits between the owner because the owner is, and I'm sure owners are going to listen. So no offense, you can feel this. We installed that product yesterday. How many cars have we sold today? I'm the person in between.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too. I think just the perspective, at least that I've had on the automotive industry. I didn't come from the automotive industry myself either. I've never been in the dealership world directly myself, but it's when I view the automotive industry from the lens of just technology itself, it seems like the automotive industry always has been, it's a slower moving train. A lot of the technologies you will see that'll happen at your Apples, Facebooks, Googles, Snowflake, Salesforce of the world, it'll happen there first, and then it might take a year or a couple of years to get implemented in the auto industry. So I think for me, having that perspective of what's going on in the outside world has allowed us to get in front of some of these larger initiatives we see taking place.
Absolutely. That's what a lot of my research has been in growth through all of these years is I look at what other industries do.
Yeah.
And how adaptive the automotive industry can be to some of the things that you see working successfully for other industries and try to make that work in our very unique setting. has been always a focus of mine. I used to say back early lead management days when we had CRMs and the phone would ring and it would pull the customer up on the screen for you. I would always tell the people I'm training this that, the pizza places do that. When you call the pizza place, it pulls you up and, the people you're talking to know that your last pizza was a extra cheese, pepperoni. And you're buying it back in those days at, $12 pizza. I'm like, we're selling $20,000 cars and we have
Right.
no idea who's calling us.
Right.
Why do the pizza joints get it and we don't? That was, we're talking back in the 90s when I was using that analogy to try to get salespeople to understand the value that comes from that engagement with the customer, just simply saying, oh, thank you so much for your previous purchase, or thank you so much for being a service customer. What that does for your relationship. And I would always use the pizza joints as an example. And now, all these years forward, when I was writing the book, I used a lot of very intelligent digital retailers like Amazon and Temu and Kohl's and others, and how well they do with their online retailing. I asked car dealerships, why don't we learn from them and adopt some of the things that they're doing into our processes? So I'm still doing it. I've just moved up from the pizza joint. I'm up to Amazon now.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about that, and let's talk about your book, Texts That Sell. And I know, this is a topic that you and I have spoken about many times throughout the years. I know that often you've used analogies with, retailers like a Target or a Kohl's and the way that they would communicate with you by email and by text. What are some of those, specific strategic and tactical things that you've taken away from consumer retail products that you've helped implement within the auto industry?
Well, I wrote a lot of words about one core concept. And the core concept is understanding the difference between text marketing and text communication. There is a difference, and there's a different way to use each one of them. And I shopped over 100 dealerships when I was doing research for that book, just to get an idea of what they're saying to their customers via text message.
Yeah.
And I would do side-by-side comparisons of shopping experiences I'm having with other retailers. What I discovered is our measurements for success are very, very different in automotive than what you're seeing in a Target environment or Kohl's environment or Amazon. They measure their entire success on the type of quality engagements they're providing their customers. What is the customer doing? What action is the customer taking? What value am I giving them? And what are they doing? We measure off of, well, I sent out 20 text messages and I got 10 replies. We measure things based on a reply, and I've got data over data over data that will show a reply means nothing when it comes to consumer engagement and actually funneling the customer into the sale. A reply means absolutely nothing. So why we measure our text strategies on replies, is really a mystery to me. This is what I'm trying to explain in my book, is that when you sit down and you talk about creating a text environment as a means of communication with your customer, you have to ask yourself, what value am I providing the customer when I'm creating this text message? What is the customer going to get out of this? What are they going to do after they receive it? And what part of the funnel am I moving them into as a result? Every single text. Because what I saw is that we're doing text communication when text marketing is really where we need to be. So, for example, I'm interested in purchasing a new Chevy Silverado. I want to buy a Chevy Silverado. That's what I'm interested in now. Just started my search and I found one I kind of like, and so I filled out the internet lead.
Yeah.
It lands at the dealership. Right away, I get a text from the dealership saying something to the effect of, "Thank you for your request on the Chevy Silverado. Would you like to come in today and drive it?" Excuse me? I don't even know you. You're not my sister or my brother or my cousin or my friend.
Yeah.
Why are you texting me as if we've known each other for years? You're asking me out to lunch. It's the equivalent. I put that in the book. It's the equivalent. Would you text a complete stranger who meet you at the bagel place at noon for lunch? That would sound really creepy. We don't text our customers that way. It provided no value to the customer. The customer, you're just assuming that the customer is at the bottom of the funnel. You didn't even do any examination of where the customer is in the buying process. You just said, hey, thank you for your request. You want to drive it. And I call that you went from hello to metal.
Yeah.
I use that a lot. You really haven't established any foundation. You haven't provided any value to the customer. And now the customer is kind of stuck. They're feeling like, well, if I say no, then what's going to happen? Or if I say yes, I'm not really ready. And so you're either going to get a bunch of fake responses like, sure, yeah, I'll come in, and they
Yeah.
never show up. You're going to get ghosted. And then only to the next day, you know what you get the next day? I didn't hear back from you yesterday. Really? Because I don't know you. You know, a good friend of mine texted me yesterday. I haven't gotten back with her either. You know, and then in a week, are you still in the market? Are you still in the market for that Silverado? What? Now you're going to nag me?
Yeah.
So you made me feel guilty. First of all, you made me feel uncomfortable, and then you made me feel guilty. Now you're going to nag me. You know, I don't even know where this relationship is going at this point, and you've provided me with no value.
And I think,
And my suggestions to
yeah,
people who are in charge of designing text communications in car dealerships is first establish a little value in the communication. And where is this customer at? Do a little bit of establishing some knowledge of where the customer is, what do they want to accomplish, and you can do that by providing value text.
yeah,
Every dealership has wonderful pieces of value that they can offer the customer. And most dealerships will tell you that they have certain things that they do that's better than the dealership up the road or down the road. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it is that we bring to the table. My suggestion would be wonderful. The Silverado is a wonderful truck. We have a very large selection of Chevy Silverados, many colors, many different engine, maybe towing capacity. I know that when you buy a truck, it's a big deal. I want to make sure that you have a link that you can always access our ever-changing inventory. I wanted to make sure that you got this in your phone. You know, I'm not asking you to reply, because when was the last time Cole's texted you and said, hey, we got your favorite gym shoes on sale, text or call me.
right.
Are you still wanting to buy those gym shoes? You didn't come in last week and buy those gym shoes. Do you ever get that from, you know, I know Amazon with as many things as I keep in my cart. Do you realize I'd be getting every day? Amazon would be like, would you call me? You know, all these things in your cart, do you want them or not? You gonna buy them? I haven't heard from you. Could you imagine what texting would look like if Amazon did things the way that car dealerships do things? It would be horrible. So what I try to explain is every dealership should have at least 20 good value-added marketing text messages that they can get the customer to engage. And when the customer's ready, the customer's going to let you know. And I know it feels like you're way out on the diving board here. I'm going to knock you off into the pool. You got to trust me on this, because what I've been able to determine through my research and my analytics is that I have single-handedly created my own organic lead source called texting. I am driving, I'm in the top 5 on Google Analytics, and I'm right up there with Google Organic on driving people to my website and creating an action and engagement, either a top to dial or a form fill, all from my text messages. I'm giving them value. They're engaged with us. They're engaged in our products and our services, and they're tapping and they're dialing and they're filling out forms. And that's what I want them to do. I could care less if they ever texted me back. I don't need them to text me back. So when you look at 100 marketing text messages and you look at the organic traffic that you're driving back to your website, because I GTM tag every link and every text. You look at the traffic that you're driving back to your website, and then you look at the time on the site, and then you look at the conversions, how many people are tapping and filling from. It's a beautiful number. And I have the analytics to prove it, and we're really creating awesome processes here. And I don't have a BDC that's nagging people and say, well, I haven't heard from you. You know, you were supposed to come in yesterday and drive that Silverado and we didn't see you. You know, we're actually just being able to have an entire funnel building process with our customer and provide them with some value. And
Yeah.
That is really the book cover to cover, except for I do give all the examples in there of the different texts that you want to have, but I'm really wordy if you haven't been able to tell. So a whole lot of, but that's really it, is when is it appropriate to really text communicate with your customer? I think it's appropriate to text communicate with your customer once they've reached out to you. I think once they've texted you and said, hey, Penny, thank you so much for that. I was wondering really what color Silverado I was gonna, I wasn't really sure. So thank you for sending me that information. That is perfectly fine for me to say, no problem. I'm glad you liked the link that I sent. Then now we can have a talk.
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest differentiator then between text marketing and text communication? And when does someone get the formal approval to start text communicating? Is it after you've gotten a response? Is it when maybe a question is asked? When do you feel like you can switch from text marketing to text communicating in a conversation?
I say look for the engagement. The customer will engage with you when it's time to engage with you. I'm not saying that we need to hide behind text marketing. That's not the goal. And I don't believe anything that we've designed is a means of hiding. But my business development center waits for that engagement. And what we do is we have a series, we have it set up on our follow-up schedules to where we're providing funnel building. So each and every text is orchestrated to get the customer to send a message to you, but we're not saying text me. So when you're building these text messages, I put a few rules in there. If you're demanding a reply, get rid of it. You should never demand a reply. You should entice the customer to reach out to you, but your text message should never be the sole purpose to get a reply.
Yeah.
And you should not measure text success on getting a reply. Your text should provide so much value to the customer that the customer is, in essence, going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
Instead of nagging. If you see, I wanted to put, I had to cut it back. I originally had every single text message that I've received from car dealerships in that book.
How many of them sounded the exact same?
I mean, that would be a whole book in its own right. It would be texting for dummies, what to do, what never to say to a customer over text message. So when you're building your text messages, if you're demanding a reply, delete it. Never demand a reply from the customer. Never put that kind of pressure. We talk about pace lead when it comes to telephone calls, and you have to make a deposit into the relationship before you make a withdrawal. The same applies for text messaging. So if anything, a lot of dealerships hide behind text messaging. They'll go right out and say things over text that they would never say if they were on the phone with a customer, much less if they were in person. I ask salespeople, when a customer walks in the door, do you walk right up to them and shake their hand and say, you want to drive it? Or do you first do a exam day? Thank you for coming in. I'm really glad you chose us as your dealership. Let's come over, sit down. Would you like a cup of coffee? What vehicle were you interested in? Oh, that's a great vehicle. Have you ever driven one? Do you currently drive one? Are you considering comparing it to anything? We don't just walk up and go, we want to drive it.
Yeah.
But that's what we do on these text messages. Oh, I'm glad you like the Silverado. When are you going to come in and drive it? And so when you're looking at these concepts, you ask yourself, what type of value am I providing to the customer? Am I demanding a reply?
Uh-huh.
And then what action am I asking the customer to take? You have to give them something to do in every text message. When do you get a text message from Temu? I get them every day. And you know that every one of them contains a link to something I'm probably going to want to buy. Now, if I click that link into Temu and you get the spinning wheel for your, you can get up to 100% off, I'm in. Now my day's wasted. I'm going to be in here spinning the wheel, getting my percentage, going through all the products. They already got my credit card, tap, tap, tap. They got my delivery address, send it on its way.
Yep.
There's times where I don't even click on the link because I know I'm going to buy something. They're beautiful. They have designed that to there's not one text that I get that is not relevant to me. And that alone is going to cause me to take an action. So I have to be careful with that. But we can do the same thing in the car business. Send relevant information, valuable information, and give the customer something to do. Even if it's something as simple as saying, read our reviews. We'll see what other customers say about doing business here. Have we made everybody happy? No, but we've made most people happy. Take a look. Send them over your reviews. So that's one of the many text messages that I think every dealership needs to have in their arsenal.
Uh-huh.
I us on social media. We do fun stuff out there every day. We have giveaways. We're giving away gas cards. Join us out there. You like us and follow us and send a link to your social media.
Yeah.
Another must-have text message that every dealership should have. Make sure that they understand that your inventory is constantly changing. Save this link. You can tap it every day if you want, and you can see everything new coming into inventory. You can be the first to see it. Another text message every dealership should have in their arsenal. And they're all in the book. And my goal isn't even to sell books. If anybody called me up and said, "Hey, I want your book," I'm going to email it to them. Here's the book.
Yeah.
What I want people to do is listen to what I'm saying, because there's so much value in changing your tech strategy when it comes to really driving sales. Instead, I think what most people do with text messages, they're actually trying to get a response. They're trying to start a conversation. I'm trying to sell a car. I don't think texting back and forth with somebody sells cars. I don't think it builds growth. I don't think it creates engagement. It doesn't do any of the things we need it to do.
Yeah. I always think of it too as putting myself in the customer's shoes. And I mean, anytime I teach a brand new employee that doesn't have any automotive industry experience, you have to understand how cutthroat and competitive the industry is. Because if I'm a consumer, wherever it may be, in Cincinnati and Chicago and Los Angeles and Dallas, Texas, and I submit an inquiry online for a new Chevy Silverado, well, often you're not just going to one specific dealership. There's 10 other stores within a 100-mile radius that all have the same product for the same price. So that customer, they're not just receiving one text message from one dealership. There might be 10 other ones. Well, what is going to make you stand out as the one text that they're going to engage with? Is it the same? "I've got the car. When do you want to come in? When do you want to set up a test drive?" Or is it going to be something different that says, "Wow, okay, they didn't ask me for anything. They just provided me with some value and let me make the decision on my own terms." So I think it's just that framing, Penny, what you speak about, I think is so valuable. I think it's also important to have goals of, what are my goals for text message communication? What are my goals of email communication? What is my goal of calling somebody on the telephone? And goals for those three separate methods, they should not be the same. These are three mediums, and you have to approach these three mediums as separate, not as, my goal is to get this customer through the doors no matter how I do it. I think that's a bit of old school thinking.
Well, what about all the text messages that I received that they would text and they'd say, "Hey, you got a minute? Call me." Why are you texting me and telling me to call you? Why don't you call me?
And who are you?
Yeah. That is a very common, and then you'll get the one that comes 3 months later, because they're very aggressive on the beginning, and sequencing is very important when it comes to text messaging. I talk a lot about the sequencing. When are you texting? Are you looking at when you're texting? Maybe you're texting at the wrong time. You can always tell the dealerships that have their automatic follow-up systems, because you get the text at the same time every day.
Yeah.
That's like my husband. If he texts me, "I love you," at the same time yesterday and today, I'm like, "What is that, just programmed in your phone?" "No, it was a coincidence." I'm like, "No, you got that set up to auto send to me every day at 2 o'clock, don't you?" You get the same feeling when you get the same text from the same company, like every day at the same time. There's no human there. You're just throwing your line into the lake hoping to catch a fish. So you have to look at the sequencing of those, and then also the front loading, how excited you're texting them every day for 7 days, and then, well, we'll give the customer, we're admitting we're wearing the customer out. We'll give them a break. We'll go, then after day 7, we'll go out to day 12. Because we really wear them out. So we're going to give them a 5-day breather, and then we're going to go start up again, right?
Yeah.
And then 30 days, well, I guess they don't want to buy anything. They're just messing around. They're just playing around on their computer. They don't want to buy anything. So we'll put them on the 30, 50 day schedule now.
Yeah.
Or if they are still getting your text messages, they don't even know what they originally requested from you. I've gotten some of those text messages where I've literally had to scroll to the first text message to even understand, yeah, that was so and so dealership, and I was asking about this. Because it's been so long since I've heard from them, I had no idea what they were talking about.
I was going to ask Penny. So how do you deal with that conundrum because obviously it exists? You got, let's just say, the dealership owner on one side who might be saying, "I want every single customer through my doors right now," versus allowing the customers text marketing to them and allowing them to come to their own conclusion. How do you deal with that sort of conundrum? When is too much, and when is enough, maybe not enough? How do you deal with that?
Well, the first thing you do is you take a look at your text success to the point where you're having this conversation. Take a look at what texting has really done for you so far. You know, you really understand where are we now? What texting are we using? You know, how does it work for us? You know, what is our success story? You know what? If you're a dealership and you're using old-fashioned text methods and they're working like a charm and you're selling cars and everybody's happy, I'm not even going to talk to you. But if you look at your texting process and you say to yourself, you know, I don't think that we're getting out of this what we should. So I'm going to call right now where we're at is probably not too successful. And you have that conversation. Say, you know, we're really not seeing a lot of success out of our text messages. You know, we're getting a decent amount of unsubscribes, and we're also not getting people we're texting versus the actual engagement that we're getting is low. And you can get that out of any CRM. So we got to do something. And that's where you start. First, everybody has to admit and to themselves that we probably need to revamp our texting program. And at least then you can start at kind of ground zero, you know, and say, okay, everything we do now is only going to help us because we've all agreed that what we're doing now isn't really working too well. So it's a good place to start when you're talking to an owner, because if you can get the owner to agree that, yeah, we probably need to be a little bit better at this, then you can say, okay, here we are. Everything that we do and every effort that we make is going to be a plus. So you start there. And then you don't go completely all in. You can't change people's processes overnight. What you do is you build out your marketing plan first. You sit down and you build out a solid 20. And I put those in the book of really good, solid view building text messages that you know that any customer will get and think, well, this is useful. This is valuable information to me as I'm looking to purchase a vehicle. Get your library built because that takes time. You know, put a lot of elbow grease into it. Google Tag, go to GA and Google Tag. It's easy. Anybody can do it. Tag every single link so you can see it over in analytics, and then get everything set up in your CRM to where you're deciding this is when my marketing texts are going to go out. And then turn it on. And if your salespeople or your BDC reps, they say, you know what, I've got a text message I've been using and it works and I'm not going to quit using it. Okay. All right. We're not here to uproot your entire process, but I want you to use my marketing text along with what you're doing. Give it a try and see. It's like an A/B test. You're going to text the text that you think works really well, but you're also going to provide this value added text message over here.
Yeah.
And let's see, because what we're seeing is the one that you think is really successful, you're not getting many replies. But the one over here is tagged, and people are actually clicking on the link that you're sending them.
Yeah.
So you're getting engagement, but you feel left out of it because they didn't reply to you. You feel abandoned because you need that reply to make you feel good. Look, the customer clicked on the link and they spent 3 minutes on the website and they filled out a form. I would rather have that and have you feel a little left out than to just send a text and go, well, they didn't reply. So integrate this in with what you're already doing, because that way you know in your mind that you're adding consistent growth to your text processes. You're not abandoning everything you've done before. And you can start to take a look at little bits of progress. And as long as you understand that the funnel is a process, you're starting here, you funnel down to the sale, and we can do that now. And as long as you can rack it up a good month's worth of data, you're going to be very surprised at what you see in analytics about how you are now becoming your own lead source.
Yeah.
You are becoming text now is a lead source.
Yeah.
It is sending people to your website and it's generating leads. Now, granted, it's a second lead, probably. They sent in one lead, now we drove them back and they sent in this. But I got that customer, they're engaging with me.
Yeah.
And last month, we generated, I think it was about 140, give or take, leads just from ourselves on people clicking through the links in our text message, going back to the website and sending in a web form.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting.
It is. And Penny, these conversations that we had early on, as you know, I mean, this turned into a product for our company that we call Paramount Direct, which is really exactly that. We use it mainly as a re-engagement tool. So I'm going to contact the customer that bought a car 4 years ago, or the service customer that was in there one time 3 years ago. They're not thinking of this dealership as their go-to source. And then it's sending a text message with a link embedded in that text message. Now I have one for one marketing attribution. I know whether this person did or did not open the website. I'm not looking at response rates. And then I see everything that the person does. How long did they stay on the website? What did they click on? What did they view? We're able to produce similar numbers where it's 100, 150, 200 hand raiser type of leads that are saying, "Hey, call me, right? I'm on your website. I'm interested in something that you may have." So the point,
Feeling the power.
yeah, this works. What Penny is talking about, this absolutely works, and it works for. I mean, I can say we've implemented this at hundreds of dealerships throughout the country, and this works. And this is a much better, more effective way of using text marketing as opposed to the old school "when can you come in" model.
I haven't heard, are you still in the market? That's my
Right.
favorite one. Are you still in the market?
So Penny, let's transition a bit. We talked about texting. Now let's talk about chatbots. So your other book, and I had a chance to read through this one, Chatbots That Sell.
Yeah.
So just talk to me maybe about the difference that you see between text marketing and then chatbots. Obviously, text marketing, the way that you talk about it, is done with a more human-like process where you want to come across sincere, like, hey, there's a human being behind here. Whereas opposed to chatbots, those are going to be automated. You're using some sort of artificial intelligence. What is the different value that you see with both these tools?
Well, first, let me start by I'm sure that every dealer that at a 20 group over the past year has run back to the dealership going, if we have AI, we can get rid of like half our staff, right? So I wanted to squash that first. It takes really intelligent people to use intelligent tools, and that's what AI is. It's a very intelligent tool built for intelligent people, not built to replace people. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure everybody understands. So what I've been doing is I've been really I go back to the funnel. I always start with the funnel because there's one thing we can all agree on when a customer reaches out to us or when a customer comes to our website or even walks onto the lot, we don't know up front where they are in the buying process. That's investigative. That's something we have to figure out. And these chatbots are just a beautiful way of finding that out. And it's also a beautiful way of giving the customers some great tools because some customers are ready for a human the first day. Some customers aren't ready for a human until 5 days. Some customers aren't ready for a human until 30 days. The chat bots allow you to determine when that human is necessary. So therefore, your humans aren't spending 30 days with a customer that wasn't ready for a human for 30 days because that's what we do now at BDCs. We spend that time. We call day 1, day 2, day 3, day 5, 7, 9. You have as much call center experience as I do. We will spend 30 days and we accomplish nothing except manpower. We have people dialing and dialing and dialing and emailing, and they're in this follow-up schedule. And what I've learned through the years is a customer is going to do what the customer wants to do. It doesn't matter how many times you call them, how many times you email them. So I started thinking to myself, how can I use conversational AI, which is in essence a chatbot, to take that off my shoulders, get it out of my staff's hands, and really give the customers what they're looking for and let the customer say, oh, I'm ready for the human now. So what I started looking at is breaking out those chatbots into 3 categories. First, the teaching and the learning. When you get your bot, name it, give it a personality, have a vision for what your bot's going to be, and teach it. And that's one of the things that I put into the book. The book isn't out yet. I think it's on Kindle right now, but the paperback copy is not out there yet. But it asks a lot of questions. Put all the questions in, train it, teach it. What I did here is I let everybody go at it. Sales, service, the mechanics in the back. I'm like, everybody start asking it the wankiest questions you can possibly think of. And we did that learning for over a month. People were just asking it all kinds of crazy stuff because I really wanted this thing trained. I wanted it to know the environment that it was in
Yeah.
because it needs to be in the environment of what the customer is going to ask us, but it also has to be smart enough to know what to ask the customer. Because once you teach it what the customer is going to ask so it knows how to respond, you start getting into the lead gen part. So that's phase two. Lead gen is teaching your bot how to ask the right questions. Because if your bot's asking the right questions, you're going to single-handedly kind of pull the customer right on down through the funnel. And then part three is the marketing. And a lot of people don't think about that. Market your bot. If it's 10 o'clock at night and there's somebody out there looking at vehicles, where would you prefer they end up? In your CRM or your bot? In your bot. I want them in the bot because the bot's going to go ahead and take care of them and do some of the things that need to get done. And maybe I might come in the morning to an appointment. You know, that happened here. We're about to have our first complete sale as a result of that. Customer was shopping. It was about 10 o'clock at night. They were looking at a new Ford Explorer. They were questioning a lot of finance questions, rates, what that payment was going to look like. The bot got them over to the Ford credit app. They went ahead and got the credit app taken care of. The bot was able to go ahead and tell them that they were approved, give them some, start out price here, up to here, payments here, up to there. Enough the customer was satisfied, and then the bot got them to go ahead and set up the appointment, and they did show up, and they're out here right now, and they're
Wow.
buying the Explorer, all courtesy of a bot.
That's incredible.
That's not, we're not trying to replace the BDC.
Yeah.
That customer at 10 o'clock, I think it was Monday night, that would have been a lead that ended up in our CRM, and they would have been contacted at 9 o'clock the next morning when they were at work. Bots are beautiful things, but you have to train them, you have to teach them, and you have to have goals, like you said about phone calls, text messages, emails. Same thing for a bot. You gotta have measure it, and you gotta have goals. And the lead gen power and a bot is endless. Initially, we all just thought, well, if they can go ahead and schedule their service appointment online, or if the bot can answer some basic questions, that'll be great. And I thought, no, this bot is going to be killer. This is a killer bot. This bot is going to be a rock star. And I told my BDC, I said, do you know what I'm doing for you? You're going to come in the morning to a bunch of appointments. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, we're in. Where do I sign? Because like I said, if we're going back in time, the owner, oh my gosh, I can get rid of everybody if I have conversationally. No, but you are going to take your BDC and you're going to make them powerful people because they're going to have a personal assistant able to handle things when they're not here. And that is a beautiful thing. And so the reason I wrote the book is I don't want people to think I'm putting a chatbot on my website just so people can schedule service appointments and it can ask, what hours are you open, or can I have a map to your dealership? No. This is a human that's going to generate endless leads to your dealership, because right now, all we know is if you go into analytics, it'll tell you how many people are on your website right now. Right? You have 10 people actively on your website right now, and it tells you, where they're at. Some are in Northern Kentucky, some are in Indiana. But with a bot, you can have a person going, hey, hi, I'm here. I know you're hanging out on the website. What can I do to help you out? Website's kind of big. Let me help you with your questions. Let me make this faster. Let me make it easier. Give your bot some personality and then have it ask the right questions. And is it perfect at first? Heck no. Oh my gosh, it's funny. And as long as you're lighthearted and you're willing to, scratch your head and go, oh, I didn't want it to say that. I mean, my bot was saying in the beginning, because we had some commercials out there where we had some vehicles that it just so happened when the commercial started to run, we sold the vehicles really quick. And so customer was asking about a couple vehicles they saw in one of our commercials, and the bot's like, we don't have that. Like, no, bot. No, let's talk. And you have to train and teach. So you're going to go through your bumpy road with your bot, because it's going to say things that, just like a new salesperson, you're going to go, why did you say that?
So you're hitting, Penny, on a lot of very interesting points, and I'm curious. So you talked about integrating the bot with pricing tools and your finance applications, and the bot is quoting some sort of price. Maybe the bot knows and is connected to inventory. So what does it look like? What are the integrations that a chatbot should be integrated with. Because again, I see chatbots that they try to pretend as if it's a human that you're talking to, and it'll have a human name. It'll be it's Vanessa or it's Penny, and it's typing like a human. But then it won't be able to take you very far during the conversation. I was playing around with your bot on Walt Sweeney Ford, and I urge everyone to jump on there and check it out. And I like the approach. It's clear as day. This is an AI bot. The name is an AI bot. It's called the Detonator. So you're not hiding behind that fact at all. So I'm curious about that, the reasons behind it.
And our bot is still an infant. Our bot just went live not too long ago. We spent a lot of time behind the scenes with our bot. So I was writing this book with all of our growing pains, with this creature that we've created. But what I have discovered is the people chatting with the bot. I've got so many people chatting with the bot, and I go into our CRM, and there are people that are sending leads that we've been trying to call, and they won't answer.
Yeah.
But they're comfortable chatting with the bot.
Yeah.
I'm serious. If I could spend the time to pull up the CRM and pull up the back end of our bot right now, you would be floored. I think it's probably 3 out of 5 people chatting with our bot. I also have leads over in the CRM. So I told the BDC, I'm like, nothing against you guys. I just want to talk to the bot. They don't want to talk to you yet. But it's exactly my point. They're not ready for the human yet. They don't want you yet, But if the bot's non-threatening, they don't feel pressured or obligated. They can leave at any time. And in fact, our bot is down on some of our pages right now because of one of your questions that I'm working through is that I'm trying to get with Viato. Viato is working on a live feed of our inventory over to the bot. No one until me has suggested that. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. No one's thought about this. So what I'm doing is I'm uploading a daily spreadsheet to the bot, which is not how we want to do it.
Yeah.
If I have to keep doing it, I will. But what I've trained our bot to do is every single one of our vehicles have a zero down opportunity flat. But my bot will let you know that your payments are going to be a little dictated based on your credit. You kind of own that. I had it was being a little snarky there for a while. I had to teach it to kind of be a little nicer. Pay your bills, your payment's going to be $600 a month. If you pay bills, you $250. But it's very honest about that. And I won't say haven't. I've had a couple of people. I can tell them what I talk about in the analytics part of the book is that you see when people are kind of cutting out, and you learn from that. And that's how I started changing some of that around. Because like I said, we're still learning here.
Yeah.
Every time someone exits the bot, I go and I see what the bot said that caused them to exit. And if someone's out there and they're really hard pressed on a payment and you're kind of giving them starts at and goes up to,
Yeah.
So I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
I still have to figure out a better way to say that. Because ultimately what we want them to do is if they're really hard pressed on a payment, naturally they probably need a human at this point.
Yeah.
We bots have what they call human triggers, and I pop that in as one of mine. If they're really hard pressed on a payment, that's probably time for a human. But you can't just say, all right, Karen, apparently I'm not good enough for you, so I'm going to have to get you on the phone with Mike here in the BDC and he can get you payment information. But I got to come up with something.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, Penny, that is so powerful. I mean, so many dealerships still hide behind not providing numbers to customers. And again, I understand that you don't necessarily want to start the conversation off with here's our price so then the customer can just go out and shop. Well, this dealership quoted me X and this dealership was $500 less. I'm just going to go there. I understand the reasons behind it, but I use this analogy all the time. It's just when you think of the automotive industry and you think of automotive franchises, well, if I go to McDonald's in Cincinnati or Chicago or Dallas or wherever, I know that the cheeseburger is going to be the same price and it's made the same way and I know what I'm getting. I can go to 5 different Nissan dealerships all in the same state. They're all going to have different prices in different ways they arrive at the price, in different ways they have that conversation about price for the same car. So I think that is where the industry ultimately will be heading. It's more of the Tesla model. You want your price? Here's your price. Here it is. I think that's very interesting, and a lot can be done leveraging chatbots to just get the information out to the customer. Then you'll have your ways to add additional reasons and rationale as to why here and why now. But I think answering the customer's questions are important.
Well, and again, when you consider a bot process, first start with where you are now. Have an honest conversation with where are we at now. And where we're at now is all we know is we get about 10 to 14,000 visitors to our website a month. That's where we are now.
Yeah.
So we're only going to go up from here, right? So now we're going to try to figure out who those 10 to 14,000 people are and what they're trying to do and what they're looking for and how can we engage with those people. So anytime you start a bot process, take a hard look. The only thing we know right now is 14,000 people. I'm up 1,000 from last month, getting in the end of the conversation. But the bot, I saw a conversation the other day where a customer, the bot quoted $1,020 a month on a payment. And the customer said something that gave the bot the impression that they weren't happy with that. And the bot responded, it's a $95,000 vehicle. There you go.
That's awesome.
It's house on wheels.
Yeah. Well, and I've got a million more questions for you, Penny. I know we're reaching the hour mark here, so we might have to bottle this conversation. I would love to continue talking with you about chatbots. Maybe just one final question, Penny, before we wrap. As we sit here today, it's May, about to be June of 2025. Obviously, there's so much in the world of technology, artificial intelligence going on. I mean, what do you see as some of the biggest changes that will happen in the automotive industry if we fast forward this trend to 5 years or from now or 10 years from now? How do you see AI, chatbots, text messaging? Where do you see all of that going 5 years from now, let's just say?
I think that the customer is going to teach us more than we're ever going to teach the customer. I think that we are in a constant state of adaptation. We have to adapt to the consumer. And if you are smart and you're willing to accept that, and take a look at who's the buyer going to be in 10 years, who are the 18-year-olds right now and what are they doing? How are they interacting with each other right now? And be prepared to interact with them the way they want. Do you know how we always used to ask, what's your preferred method of contact? You know how big that list is now? That's huge. If you ask the average 18-year-old what their preferred method of contact is, holy moly. It can be interacting with 5 people at the same time.
Yeah.
So we have to, in this industry, accept the fact that maybe what's good for us isn't good for the consumer. What's good for us is we want a customer sitting face to face right across the desk from us. That's what works for us. But the more you learn and the more you feel the pain from having to understand, like you said, price quoting, the more you understand that that's not how the consumer wants to do it anymore, the more successful you'll be, and you have to be open to providing your consumer with tools. Like I said in the text, if they're not responding to you, don't measure it like that. Send them a link to your Facebook. Follow me on Facebook. We put a lot of really cool stuff out there on Facebook. Like us on go out to our YouTube page. We have a lot of really cool stuff out there on our YouTube page. You'll be surprised. They're gonna find some place that they're comfortable, doing business with you. But if you're only gonna say a quality customer is the person sitting across from me, and that's how you measure your customer, you're not gonna grow. And I think that AI has become, for this store, a huge resource because it gives us the ability to do a little bit more communication. We don't just have one person or 3 people writing emails and sending out messages. Using conversational AI, we have the ability to have 5, 6, 10 conversations at the same time. Like, we're an 18-year-old here. We're having, 10 conversations. If you look at the back end of the bot, it's talking to 5 people at the same time. That's something that you can't accomplish without technology. And you have to be, open-minded enough to know that that's when you've got 14,000 people visiting your website every month, you better have the ability to talk to 10 of them at the same time. And really take on that approach. But like I keep saying, the customer is always going to cause us to change in this industry, and you have to be open to it. And I think across the board, you work with all these dealerships, and you probably could think right off the top of your head, I've got some dealerships that just evolve beautifully. I've got some that are like a boulder. You can't move them no matter how long your stick is, right? And everybody in between. So I think companies like yours, especially seeing some of the success that you've already seen, you're going to be the people who go out there and constantly keep this stuff in front of all of us. And, I think that those who are willing to, what do you say, they take the horse to the water, you can't make them drink.
That's right.
I think that we're hiring younger people. We're selling cars to younger people. I've become one of the older people in the dealership. I'm 40 years older than the person out here buying cars right now. That changes everything. I call myself old.
You're not old.
Jeez, I need to quit talking. I just aged myself in one podcast.
Penny, this was awesome. I appreciate your time. You provided a ton of insight, actionable strategies that any owner, general manager, sales representative, BDC manager, BDC rep can take away and implement right now into their dealership process. So, Penny, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and we'll certainly have to do this again soon.
And absolutely, and if anybody you think can benefit from the chatbots that sell, I sent you the PDF, just zing it off to them.
Perfect. And Penny, where do we find your book? Where can listeners find your book?
It's the chatbots that sell is on Kindle right now. It doesn't have the marketing material in it. I'm going to be adding the marketing material soon, and then the paperback copy should be available on Amazon within the next couple of days.
Perfect. Well, and we'll include the links to both those books as well in the podcast description, so everyone will be able to find that.
Thank you.
Okay, Penny, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.